hello, and thank you so much for joining me for the podcast of the True Power from Within. I do pray each and every day that this podcast touches you in the most amazing and encouraging way. So, today I have named this podcast, I'm Stumbling, but Watch Out, I'm Coming. And it's funny because sometimes when you read stories in the Bible, right? And I love the book of Ruth, right? So I know the story inside and out um, of the book of Ruth because, starts out when you first read it, or when I first read it, it was like a love story. And then as I started becoming myself, I realized that it was also a story of diligence and of not giving up, right? But I have also kind of realized that it's also a story of stumbling upon God's blessing. Okay. Because if you know the story of Ruth, you know that her husband had died. She traveled with her mother-in-law to a city that she'd never been to before. She would have been considered a second-class citizen. She would have been considered an outsider, right? She goes there with nothing, right? Her and her mother-in-law Naomi go there with absolutely nothing. And Ruth, being as dedicated as she was to the mission, right, that she had, that she said, I'm going to go out and work. I'm going to pick up grain in the field behind people I don't even know, right? And although I'm picking up someone else's droppings, right? Maybe you're picking up something that somebody else has dropped, right? So um, I will tell you, I will see something on the side of the road, right? And I am very adamant that I want to pick it up. Now, if my husband is with me, he's like, keep driving, don't even look, right? But we often say somebody else's trash is someone else's treasure, right? And he doesn't allow me to pick it up. And if he ever came home and saw something in our house that I picked up off the side of the road, he would probably make me get rid of it. But, that is what, what it is. But sometimes someone else's trash is another person's treasure, right? So we see that Ruth, she's very diligent about going and making sure that she picks up grain so that her and her mother-in-law have something to eat, right? And what's funny is that in this story we see that she stumbles upon God's blessing, right? When she traveled to a new city, she had nothing, right? And when she went to the field to pick up grain, she was literally just going with the intention of making sure that her and her mother-in-law could eat. But see, God had another plan, right? So in this moment where she feels like maybe she's less than, or maybe she feels like she's last in the race, maybe she feels like she's not being noticed, she gets noticed, right? Because God says when we're stumbling, right? Because all good things, we're going to stumble when we get into them, right? So when you open your first business, you're going to stumble, you're going to make mistakes because you've never done this before, right? When you get into a new job or a new position, you have to learn, right? You have to learn the position, you have to learn something new. So you're going to stumble until you get it right. And that's all part of our amazing story that God gives us in our life. Because if we didn't stumble, if we didn't fall, if we didn't make mistakes, then we would never grow and we would never learn, right? But sometimes we feel like we're stumbling, we're doing so many things wrong, nothing good is happening for us. But God is saying, look, I've ordained something in your life, right? I've ordained this for you, but you have to grow and you have to stumble, right? And so you stumble into your blessings, right? You stumble into your blessings. Hear me when I say this, because nobody gets to their blessings with a clear path, right? Nobody accomplishes their dreams and everything is just smooth sailing. It never happens like that. you're going to stumble. You're going to fall. We always say, make sure that you fail forward, right? If you're going to fall forward, right? Don't fall backwards, fall forward. But here's the thing. In Ruth chapter 2, right? Right, we all know Boaz, right? We all know Boaz in the book of Ruth. And if you haven't read the book of Ruth, I say this every time, please read it, because there's so much that comes out of this. I don't know why my nose is itching so bad this morning, but please excuse me. But we see so many different perspectives when you read this. Like every time you read the book of Ruth, you can get something completely different out of it if you just read and really and be in tune with what you're reading, right? Because it's so relatable in so many areas of our lives. So in the book, or in the second chapter of Ruth, in verse 5, it says, then Boaz spoke to his servant that was in charge of the workers, and he said, whose girl is that? Whose girl is that? So even though Ruth thought, okay, I am just picking up someone else's trash, right? Or someone else's droppings. I am just barely getting by, right? I don't know what God has for me in this season, but I just know right now I'm trying to survive. I'm just trying to make it. I'm just trying to do what I can in this season, right? But what we don't understand is, and sometimes in those seasons where we feel like we're not getting noticed, where we feel like nobody hears us, when we feel like God is not answering our prayers, or we feel like our finances are not where they need to be, God will send a Boaz, right? And I'm not saying a Boaz isn't a husband or, a wife or anything like that. I'm saying a Boaz, meaning somebody will notice you. Right? God will send somebody who notices you. You may be running the race and you may be last, right? But maybe somebody notices you because of your diligence. Maybe somebody notices you that because you're last in the race, but you're still running as hard as you can and as fast as you can, and you're still doing the very best that you can. God is going to send somebody that's going to notice you. Right? So although you're stumbling in your race, you are weary, at the same time, you're also stumbling into your blessings, because you say, I am in last place and I see all these people in front of me that are running. Okay, so let me look and see what are they doing differently than me? Right? So when you're in the back, you have the opportunity to see the people in front of you, right? You have the opportunity to see, okay, that this person is making this mistake, or their form is not the way it's supposed to be, or, oh my goodness, like this is a mistake that they made in their business. So I know when I start my business, I don't make that mistake, right? Or maybe you're seeing them because they're so diligent, right? Maybe you see them because they show up every single day and you're like, oh my gosh, I love the way they show up every day. I love what God is doing in their life, right? So although they too feel like they may be stumbling, but you being the last in line, you diligently running your race, you looking around you and seeing the areas that you can grow in, or how you can change with the mistakes that they have made in their journey, and so many different things, right? So we're always stumbling into our blessings. We're always stumbling into our opportunities, right? Because you don't just walk into an opportunity. A lot of times when God is blessing you, you're going to have what we call, there's a book called God Winks. I actually just started reading it the other day, but it talks about these, what we call coincidence, right? We say, oh, well, it was such a coincidence that I saw so-and-so the other day, and I was just talking about them the other day, and then all of a sudden I saw them, right? It's not a coincidence. They call it a God wink, right? Because in a year from now, you're going to look back and say, wow, now I know why God had me in that moment. Now I know why I went through that season. Now I know why I made that mistake in my business, because God was trying to show me something, right? So it's called a God wink. And so God gives you these winks along the way, right? But he's still putting these people in your path that's going to notice you, that's here to help you, that's here to comfort you, right? Like Boaz. Boaz was a landowner, Okay. He had money, and Ruth was just that girl, right? She was just that girl that was just simply there saying, can I please just collect some grain so that we don't go hungry, right? How many times in your life have you felt like you were picking up behind somebody else? How many times in your life do you feel like everybody around you is going faster than you, or they're getting fast to their destination faster, or their business is growing faster, or they're getting more promotions, or they've got that new car and that new house and you're still in the exact same place that you were 5 years ago? That's because the people that are there are taking more risk. They're having more faith. They're having more belief. And even though they're scared, fearful, they are still failing forward. They're still stumbling. It may not look to you like they're stumbling, but they're stumbling. God is giving them some God winks along the way, right? They've had some people notice them, and we feel like we've been left behind. But the reality is that you're not left behind. All the times you feel like you're stumbling and you're falling, it's just God saying, I've got you. I'm just trying to show you something, right? I've sent the Boaz to notice you, but I need to get you in the right position, right? Sometimes we won't allow God to put us in that position so that we can prosper, right? We're like, no, no, I cannot do this because I am too scared. It's too big of a risk. People are going to talk about me. They're going to judge me. I can't. I am an ex-con. I am this. We make so many excuses when God is literally just trying to get us in a position, right, to stumble in to our blessings. He is trying to get you in a position so that you can stumble into your blessings. And you're probably thinking, why do I have to stumble? We have to stumble because if everything is perfect, we don't need God, right? If we don't stumble, we don't fall, we don't take risk, things don't happen to us, we're not going to move, right? We're going to be happy, complacent, right where we are. We're not going to fulfill the purpose that God has placed in our life. We're not going to be as joyful as we could be. We are not going to be as successful. Oh my gosh, that was horrible. Successful as God wants us to be or intends for us to be. If everything is going smooth, we're going to just be surviving. But because you're a child of a king, God says that you can thrive. You are not here to survive. You are here to thrive. You are here to help others that come behind you. You are here to drop grain. You are here to drop blessings. You are here to drop empowerment. You are here to drop encouragement to those Ruths that come behind you. And then we go down to verse 10 in chapter 2, and it says, Then Ruth bowed very low to the ground. She said to Boaz, I am surprised you even noticed me. I am a stranger, but you have been very kind to me. Without even reading the verses in between verse 5 and verse 10, we can read between the lines, so to speak. We know that Ruth was so diligent. We know that she was so dedicated to being around her mother-in-law, right? Even though the very thing that kept them together was no longer alive because he had passed away, which was Ruth's husband and Naomi's son, right? But Ruth's sister had the opportunity to go as well, right? She started out to go, but then Naomi says, no, you guys stay here in your home, in your home around the people that love you. But Ruth said, no, I'm not. And that's because Ruth knew that there was something more for her in this life, right? even though you are considered less than in society because maybe you've been an addict, maybe you've been in prison, maybe you've been to jail, maybe you've been homeless, maybe you've had to ask for help, right? Maybe. But because you did it anyways, because you stood up and you've said, you know what, I am going to be diligent and dedicated to the mission that God has me on, regardless of what everybody says about me. I don't care if John or Jane talk about me, because I know that even though I'm stumbling, I'm stumbling forward. I'm stumbling into my blessings. I'm stumbling into my calling. I'm stumbling into my purpose. God has something for me, even though I'm stumbling, even though I have no idea what I'm doing. The only thing I'm living on right now is a prayer. But God says you're going to stumble into those blessings. It's time to stop worrying about who you're picking up grain behind. Because although you may feel like they are better than you or they're farther along than you, as we see here, right? They were servants. These other people were servants, right? Boaz could have noticed one of them because they were hardworking. They had been working for him for a long time, right? He could have blessed their families. But instead, he noticed little old Ruth. He noticed the girl that was picking up grain behind everybody else. The girl that, could have been homeless. We don't really know. It didn't ever say that they had a house or anything like that, right? So they could have been homeless, right? And she's just picking up grain, just enough every day to feed her and her mother-in-law. So Boaz could have blessed, right, with a new position, a promotion, right, for these other workers that were working so hard in his field. But he noticed Ruth. That's because God ordained something for her that nobody could change. Just like God has ordained something for you that nobody can change. Nobody can take away your story. Nobody can take away your purpose. Nobody can take away your dignity. Nobody can take away your diligence. The only way anybody can take that away is if you allow them to, because God has already ordained something amazing and miraculous in your life. But we have to be willing to stumble into that blessing. We have to be willing to wake up every day and say, God, I don't know what you have for me today, but I'm here for it. Okay, I don't know what you have in this season, but please don't do it without me. I know it's not going to be easy. I know it could be hard. There's probably some scary stuff going on, but Lord, give me the boldness and the courage to continue to move forward, because I know that even though I am stumbling, God, I know that you have something in this for me. Even though I feel like I'm picking up somebody else's droppings, I know, God, in this moment and in this season, you have something so amazing for me. But see, some of us allow our pride to get in the way. So even though people are dropping stuff for us, right? Sometimes we have to learn from people who are younger than us. We have to learn from people who have a higher education than us. Sometimes we have to learn from people that have less of an education from us. Or maybe we have to learn from people who have less money than us. Or maybe we have to learn from people who have been in prison or have been an addict and we've never been an addict, right? Sometimes God put people in your path that even though you think you may be less than them, there's something in you that they need to see. There's something in you that they need to learn. So just because you think that you're picking up behind somebody else, just because you think that you're second best or society has labeled you all of these things in your life, God said that's okay. Because even though you feel as if you're stumbling into a blessing. You're stumbling into a purpose. You're stumbling into something that I have already ordained from you from the day you were conceived in your mother's womb. So if you continue to keep pushing and keep going forward, I've got something for you. But when you start to refuse to stumble, when you start to refuse to learn and grow, then you're going to be in a season of complacency. You're going to be in a season where you're going to feel like God's not hearing you. He's not listening to you. Because we all have to take those calculated risks in our life to get where God has ordained us to go. Do you think that starting a new business with Thrive and then turning around and opening up a coaching practice at the same time is not scary? Like, can I do this? Or is people going to be confused? Do you think that being vulnerable on Facebook about who I used to be or what my story is was not scary at the beginning? Writing my book and publishing it, it was literally a moment in time that, even though my book is not perfect, it does not look perfect by any means, but it was a way that I could get my story out there and get past the fear of judgment and sharing my story with the world. So although God is giving you the assignment, sometimes we say that assignment's too big. It's too scary. I can't do it. I'm not qualified for this. But God says, if you just continue to be faithful to those things that someone before you is dropping, you're going to stumble into your blessing. You're going to stumble into that business. You're going to stumble into that financial blessing. You're going to stumble into that purpose or that calling or whatever it is that you're praying for and you're believing for in this moment in time. But if we all had a clear path, we would not need God. There would be no reason to have faith or belief. But when we stumble, when we fall down and we get back up, when we fail and we fail forward, all of these things are leading us to somebody noticing us, to somebody saying, you know what, you used to be the maintenance man at the business, but now you're the owner. Or we used to kick you out of the building, but now you're the highest paying person in the business. Or you come out of prison, never had a sales job a day in your life, and then 5 years later, you end up one of the top 10 people in the company, and you've never done phone sales before. See, here's the thing. Even though you feel like you're not being noticed, even though you feel scared or you feel disqualified, God is saying, be like Ruth. For a season, I'm asking you to pick up the little bit of grain that they are dropping, okay? Grain being nuggets, learning, paying attention, right? Taking risk that I ask you to take, helping people that I ask you to help, being a good steward over what I give you. Because in the season that is coming, you're going to stumble into that blessing. You're going to stumble into the moments that you've been asking for. But I need you to be willing for a season to pick up behind somebody else, to learn from somebody else, to have belief in somebody else, to help somebody else. Sometimes we have to be willing to be last and put someone else first in order to get to our blessing. Sometimes we miss out on our blessing because we're not willing to become unselfish. We're not willing to take our eyes off of our prize to assist someone else in getting to where they need to be. So today I want to tell you, just because you feel like you're stumbling, I want you to tell yourself, I'm stumbling, but watch out because I'm coming. I'm stumbling, but watch out because I'm about to be noticed. I'm stumbling, but watch out because that business is about to open. I'm stumbling, but watch out because that financial breakthrough is on the way. Watch out. I'm stumbling, but that new car is about to be sitting in my driveway. I'm stumbling, but watch out because I'm about to be a homeowner or a business owner. or you're about to have a good marriage, or you're about to have that child that you've been asking for, or maybe you have a child that's not acting the way they should be acting. God says, I'm going to bring you out of those things. You're going to stumble into your blessing. But for this season that I have you in right now, I need you to pay attention. I need you to pay attention because you feel like you're stumbling, but what you're really doing is you're stumbling into the blessing that I have already ordained for you, that I'm trying to maintain for you. But I need you to pay attention in this season. So today, I just encourage you. I encourage you to, even though you feel like you are second best, or you feel like you're last in the race, or you're getting weary, right? Because you're in this season and you're like, God, are you hearing me? Are you listening to me? He hears you. He's listening to you. But he's saying, child, pay attention in this season, because even though you feel like you're stumbling, you're moving in the right direction. Even though you feel like you're not going anywhere, you're moving in the right direction. Just keep picking up the grain behind someone else, because Boaz is coming. Keep learning from that business owner. Keep working hard in your position, because Boaz, your promotion is coming. So I just want to tell you today, no matter what season of your life that you're in, no matter how far you feel like you have fallen, or you're stumbling, or you feel like everybody else is going before you, just have belief and have faith to know that you're stumbling into your blessing. You're stumbling into all that you have been asking God for. But he's saying in this season, child of mine, just pay attention. Just pay attention to what I have for you in this season, because in the next season, everything I'm giving you right now, you're going to need it when you stumble into that blessing. You're going to need every single thing that I have shown you in this season. You're going to need it when you stumble into that blessing, and into that business, and into that new car, or that new home, or into that new coaching practice, or into that purpose, or into that calling. Everything I'm teaching you in this season, you're going to need that. So pay attention. Don't let your pride get in the way. Don't be too proud to pick up what somebody else is throwing down. Because all of those things that they're throwing down is building you up to receive all that God has for you in this moment in your life. So I do thank you for hanging out with me today. I do hope that I added value. Please go ahead and share this to your social medias, or screenshot it and post it on your social medias. And I say thank you so much for your support. I do thank you very, very much. And I hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Bye-bye.